Welcome back to the Optimized Equine Podcast. I'm your host, Tamara Barrett. Today I have two incredible women joining me. You may remember McKrell Baier, Program Director of Bridge Up, Giddy Up, and co-founder of the US Equestrian Society. McKrell is an educator, a coach, and one of the most passionate voices I know when it comes to making horse sport more accessible, more diverse, and more sustainable for the long haul. Make sure to listen to our previous conversations in episodes 14, 17, and 22. These are jam-packed with important information you may not have thought about before. Joining McKrell today is Lydia Heywood. Lydia is based in England and in 2017 secured dual nationality and began representing Jamaica at the international level, a milestone that continues to inspire riders who have not been able to see themselves reflected in equestrian sport. She has also led sessions at Ebony Horse Club in Brixton and worked as a mentor with young people from inner city communities. Out of all of her experiences, a defining question was born: how do we create a real path for these riders? That question led her to found Cool Ridings Equestrian, a community dedicated to creating access, visibility, and opportunity for underrepresented riders in the horse world. Together, these two are helping the horse world to think differently about community, the future of horse sport, and about humanity in general. You can learn more about our guests on social media and at coolridings.com and the US Equestrian Society at us-es.org. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and rate Optimized Equine Podcast. Stay connected at tamaraleebarrett.com. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm joined by Lydia Heywood and once again by McKrell Baier.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Lovely to be on your podcast.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. So we are just going to dive right in and learn about Lydia. McKrell, we've heard plenty about you over the episodes. Just kidding. So, Lydia, let's hear a little bit about who you are and what you do and how you got there.
Sure. I am based in England and I've mixed race, grown up with my single mum, Claire. That's where I got my passion for ponies. Started in a riding school a little bit later than some at the age of 11 and got hooked, very much so. We went to Wales and got my first pony within probably 6 months of me having a taste at a local riding school. And I wanted to get competitive. People tried to put my mum off because it's a bottomless pit of funds that we didn't have, of course, but it was quite quickly something that just took over our life, and it's still the case now. Don't know where I'd be without horses. I'm sure you hear that all the time on this podcast, but very much the case with me. Kind of kept me focused on this kind of eventing is so tough. There's always things to focus on, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it? So I've been eventing since 2012 and representing Jamaica since 2017. Yeah, how is it 2026?
Don't know. Okay, so you said you started eventing in
That's right. I went to Greenwich for the London Olympics and managed to get tickets for cross country day of eventing. That is what kind of gave me the push I needed to make an entry. I've been encouraged to make an entry for probably a couple of years. I really enjoyed cross country as a kid. I'd shown bravery and just didn't have the love of dressage. So that put me off entering anything until I saw the Olympic Games in London and the Jamaican flag came up. They had an individual and suddenly I just resonated with something in the sport, like I hadn't before, because nobody looked like me. I felt like I could do something really special for, it was bigger than me. It was about Jamaica, leaving a legacy and improving the sport for the next generation. And I'm still on that journey, enjoying every minute.
All right. What did horsing look like for you before eventing? What were you doing then? Was it just casual or was there another discipline?
I was helping somebody called Joanne Holder. She has contributed to my progress massively. We imported horses from Ireland and produced them ready to be sold to clients here in England. Really enjoyed that side of the industry. I've got quite a business mind, so quite often in class, because I was only 13, 14 when we were going to auctions and producing horses. So I'd have to kind of arrange money transfers and transport whilst in class, and teachers didn't love that, but I did. Yeah, quite
Wow.
regularly gave me detention for it. So I can't come to a detention. I've got a viewing. Sorry, sir. Yeah.
That is okay. So you saw that Jamaica was represented by an individual at the Olympics. Tell us where you went from there.
I put my brave pants on and did my first event. Okay, I might have wiggled out of the dressage boards a couple of times on my young horse called Billy, but he soon became a real contender and wanted to wow the judges for me. We were consistently sub 30 for like 3 seasons, thanks to a dressage coach called Lisa White, which my mum found. As soon as I realised what the judges were looking for, I started to enjoy it a lot more. And I think it's so important that we can share that knowledge to make sure that the next up and coming riders can not be scared stiff through lack of knowledge like I was. And that's what I see McKrell doing with their fantastic syllabus, the fantastic knowledge sharing that's happening at Bridge Up, Giddy Up is something that I strive to be able to replicate over here with cool ridings, and it takes a village. Yeah, very grateful to have had the chance to see McKrell's riders in action. It's been a game changer.
Before we dive into that, because I know we will, Cool Writings is your business, right? You want to tell us about that a little bit before we get into your experience coming here?
Yeah, totally. Cool Ridings I set up in 2020. It's really a way to document the work that I was doing in city riding schools to identify pathways for riders that wanted to continue in the sport. This is a riding school that it helps the community discover horses, £3 a lesson, accessible, but when you reach 18, you must find somewhere else. I was able to keep in contact with the alumni. From there, I've just wanted to continue to celebrate and support the diversity that exists in the country. I think the British Equestrian Federation are really missing a trick there, and been knocking on the door for some time to contribute to progress. But I think if you want something doing, you've got to do it yourself. Our January members meeting was global. We had Jamaica on the call and our UK members as well. So yeah, it's what I wake up thinking about. It's given me a family in the sport where I felt lonely before, and we all need a community, whether it's in horse sport or whichever sport you choose. Community is so important. Riders dedicating their life to horses, and they can't feel like they can be themselves because the atmosphere at the yard's tricky, and I want to be there for people when they need to find solutions for tricky situations like that. I've been in enough of them.
I would love to talk about the importance of community because I think that that's something that's global in nature. And I know that we know it more powerfully in our own communities. Lydia spoke about her experience in the city riding school and how it's an access point for new people to come into the sport. But once people are in the sport, whatever community you're in, what does that look like for people? Is it something that's welcoming, something that inspires you to be a better human? Or does it inspire you or require you to change who you are to fit what's currently there? Because what we know is what's currently there in the global equestrian economy is under siege. So clearly, we haven't been doing a very good job historically of making the horse world feel like a place where people can be who they are, can grow into the best version of themselves, and can bring the rest of their life along with them. And I think that that's clearly very well seen when you tend to look like the minority in a community that you're, a part of. But it can also be that you learn to dissociate your regular life, whoever you are, from what you learn with the horses. And that's kind of the opposite of what it should be. But that's what we've been creating kind of unconsciously, or I hope it's unconscious because it's not good within the horse world. And what we know is, from knowing Lydia and seeing how our situations are so much more similar than they are different, and just coming back from the US Pony Club convention this weekend, so many different perspectives than what we might see in the horse show world or in the riding school world or in the equine welfare world. we all face exactly the same issues, and we all are going to be way less well off if we don't find collective ways to improve the horse world as a community. And that has to start on the individual level. Everybody has to be able to feel not only that they belong, but that they're able to contribute. And I think that's why Lydia's story is so powerful, because instead of just seeing an opportunity to put herself on a pedestal because of her differences, she wants to grab everybody and help them along because of her individual experience. And we all have the power to do that.
Thanks, McKrell.
Sure. I didn't even cry because I cried so much this weekend. It's done.
All teared out. So, Lydia, I know you were able to come for the most recent US Equestrian event and observe. Can you tell us a bit about that experience and what you were able to take back to Cool Runnings and life in general?
Yeah.
What did you take back to humanity after that? That's the kind of event McKrell puts on. What did you take back to humanity after that event?
So serious girls showcased by McKrell's riders, all levels, and there are riders that have been with Bridge Up, Giddy Up for a shorter amount of time than others, but each and every one of them were riding correctly and treating their horses correctly, which was amazing to see. And the fact that McKrell has thought outside of the box and brought in people that aren't kind of traditionally horse people because they might be in the entertainment industry, but these young riders, they've now got a space that feels like they can be themselves. They see themselves in all of the guests there. You know, it's very Memphis, it's great vibes. And that's exactly the kind of setup I'd like to see in England. The energy is so important. And the coach, Lisa, fantastic. I think the staff and people involved in yards are so important, and McKrell's just got the right people there, and it's not easily done. So kudos to them for creating that fantastic atmosphere. The future's very bright. I loved how the event was set up. I'd like to steal some aspects for Cool Ridings, especially the scoring. We're not focusing on poles down, we're focused on coachability and attitude and position and horsemanship. And I think the riders were focusing on the right things as a result of the judges' score sheet, which was really clearly explained to them, the reasons for it, and the actual calculations of how they could win when it came to winning. Horses won as well as humans. They're always thinking outside the box, how to progress in the right direction. I'm so impressed.
One of the things that I enjoyed so much from having Lydia's involvement at this most recent event, together with Linda Allen, course designer, and Ulf Otterborn, very, very busy and well-respected dressage judge, with 3 different people from 3 different places, different disciplines, different perspectives, different ages. The young people as participants, young people and older people, it's not age dependent, were able and required to have interaction with the judges immediately following their experience. So having that personal experience, not just reading your score sheet or, counting up the points or seeing, even the judges' comments, but real life face-to-face discussion with a panel of people about what you just did, and also being required to interact verbally, respond to questions, it's such a deeper learning experience. And when you can have that kind of experience in the exact, immediately following what you've just done, neurologically, it hits differently. It means something. It's not just like you had a day that wasn't that good and you never want to look at that score sheet again. You're more or less forced. People say encouraged. Well, forced is probably more appropriate to engage, interact, and like assimilate that experience for both the positives and negatives of it. And I guess I'm just really an educator at heart, even though I always thought of myself as a sport person. I think I'm probably really more geared towards learning and education and finding ways to do it that matter and last, because I feel like I had so many good and bad experiences as a horse person growing up, but I don't remember them. I don't connect them to learning moments necessarily. And I think we can do so much better in that regard while people still feel valued and seen.
Bridge Up, Giddy Up, and your US Equestrian events and curriculum. I shouldn't just say the event, like the whole deal. It's really guiding people directly to see how can you let horses grow you and improve you, rather than, I don't know for sure about Lydia. Me and you, McKrell, I know we were left to figure it the heck out, and I was not using horses to improve myself and improve humanity initially, and you kind of just have to figure it out. And I feel like you're like, here you go. This is how you do it. Now run with it. It's amazing to think about all the things that could be possible when someone is shown that from the beginning, without all the stuff we had to endure or figure out on our own.
Well,
And some
and
people
to
just
that point,
don't. They just
exactly.
don't ever find it, it seems like, they just, and so that's sad.
Well, I think that part of the reason why that is, and like why I have these great big blank spots in my memory, is because it's really hard. Is and Lydia and I can both speak to, some of the experiences of the riders at this event. It's not always easy and it's not always rosy, especially as young people when we're dealing with things other than horses, which I think that's why people tend to silo it and like make it just an escapist thing, right? Is because we need that. We need escape. I mean, I sit here in my garage that I have, like renovated to look like a tropical jungle because it's 12 degrees outside. Like that is escapism. There are not even windows where I have to look outside. I don't want to. I want to know what's happening out there. But when we have those things, like okay, if you play on a sport team, if you play on a basketball team, which I also did, so I can speak to that, you have to deal with other people, with your coach, with learning plays that don't just benefit you, that benefit others. Horse sport is not like that. It's a very individual thing. It is a very powerful thing because of the horses and the way that they absolutely impact us. The hard thing is to let ourselves be vulnerable and suck at things and show up for that. And like, I think to your point, Tamara, the growth happens because even if there's a path laid out in front of you, it is not easy to follow that path. Like your own neurology is telling you, don't do that. You're going to feel crappy if you have to think about that, and you're not going to forget
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's hard enough
So
when there is a path. So when there's no path, it's like
then
climbing
it's just
Mount Everest.
randomized. Yeah, it is. And then the fact is, in like coming back to Lydia's point about community, it is so much easier to face the hard stuff when you're doing it alongside people that you have relationship with and that you all are part of something bigger. Like Lydia said, it's a bigger thing for her than just what she alone achieves in her time in the sport. Well, we're all a part of the same thing. But what we've also done as horse people that have found horses as our escape is silo ourselves so that it continues to feel safe for us. And I think that that's really like at the root of why we face such giant social license to operate Mount Everests to climb over, is because the horse sport has encouraged that, and it's just the nature of it. So we have to come to a place where we're doing these things together and not being afraid to suck in a new way together for a minute before we get really good at it.
Yeah, totally. McKrell, can you define SLO or social license to operate for anybody who's not familiar with this rabbit hole that we've all been hanging out in?
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I'm going to give you the way that I see it, and I am absolutely sure it's not the textbook definitions. The way that I see this social license to operate SLO issue affecting horse sport from the global all the way down to the grassroots level is this. When the public perception of your industry is that your industry should not exist because of harm that it is doing, that it is doing more harm than good, um, you have to balance whatever casualties your industry might have with that, there's a greater benefit to it existing than not existing. If you cannot, then you no longer have a social license to operate. So in our case, humans use other sentient beings, that is the horse, to enjoy a pastime and a sport and create an industry that benefits us. And if the public at large does not see that that is fair, then our social license to operate deteriorates until it affects groups of people at a high enough threshold that then their governing bodies start to outlaw what we do.
Outlaw or just remove resources, because some people, I think, don't think that they have to worry about laws because they don't show and don't care to show. All they do is trail ride kind of thing. But I do at this now, thanks to you, McKrell, see that differently. It's not just about the show people. It's about horses in general.
I mean, sure, and it's at the very highest level, it's about land and the ability to hold land for certain activities. And we've already seen the outcomes of that over our own lifetime in how many riding facilities are already gone. And that's not because a governing body said you can't have a riding school there. It's because social license to operate, that the people decided that that piece of land was more valuable to their community in residential or commercial development than it was to having a riding school there. It doesn't have to be a governed decision. It's the movement and the actions of the people in the community where the equestrian thing is living, whether or not they give any value to what we do.
Yes.
So I think our SLO has been eroding for generations.
Yeah, I think it has for a long time. And sometimes I think, like, if I just started paying more attention, and that's why it seems like it's so rapidly changing, deteriorating now, or is it truly more rapid because of the internet? Yes.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course it
probably.
is. And it's
Yeah.
and it's also because of the terrible, situation that the pentathlon had to
hmm
face at Olympic level. And there you see something like that can happen in the snap of a fingers, and it's just gone.
And I think what the internet has also done is, I mean, in some ways, this is a great thing. In some ways, it's a scary thing. It gives some people another place to go when they're like, oh my God, this is horrible. I'm going to go to this equine welfare site or whatever little bubble you want to join on to. And many of those newer, like, internet clicks, horse clicks, if you want to call them that, I mean, they're really anti-show too. And it's like, we have no room for that in horsing. There is no
Mm-mm.
room. There there is no room for people who want to hate on all the people at the horse shows. And that's easy to do. It's so easy to do. I can easily do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I can't stop myself. If you go on social media, you're going to see things and you practically can't stop yourself. But at the same time, it's really important that everybody zoom out.
Lydia, did it feel to you the same way as it did to me to come together with someone else from a totally different part of the world that had faced different but the same, very real, very like scarring experiences through horses?
I think the amount we have in common really shocked me. I think I have a lot of emphasis on race because of the work I do within underrepresented communities. But when it comes to us, there's so much in common. And I am black and you're white, just to put it obvious and straight up. We've had some experiences that have made us think twice about competitive equestrian sport, and we want to make it better. And we've got very similar ideas about how we can do that, which I love because we can work together. We've got a long, long life ahead of us, and it's an exciting time to be alive. Going to see a lot of change, positive change. So, yeah, I feel like we are looking at things in a very similar way. Would you agree?
Totally. Besides just knowing that there's someone there to help you do the work, I don't know how you feel, but like on a soul level, those kinds of people that enjoy helping other people, we often don't have enough people in our corner to like support us. So finding friends, finding colleagues and people that you can like share the hardest stuff with about your journey with horses, which is usually about people, not horses, just FYI, um, is it's been probably the biggest boost that I've had since beginning this program is in knowing Lydia.
That's quite a statement. Appreciate that. And you've given me a whole lot of confidence for the next steps. I mean, I've had a corporate job in insurance for 10 years and wanted to take a leap into being full-time cool riding. Just felt like it was a silly idea financially. I'm not secure. I didn't really know how to make it a viable full-time opportunity, but McKrell's shown me that it can be done. So all the naysayers and doubters over here that have tried to put that negative energy on my journey have been brushed off along the way. I'm not someone that gets affected by other people's opinions, but to see the success McKrell's having and the encouragement that she's giving me on my journey has been a total game changer. I've had my first week of freedom. I gave my notice this month, so I am full-time cool ridings and working on projects that I wouldn't have had time for previously. It's going to make all the difference. We need to look at alignments with companies outside of the equestrian world. There's unlimited benefits for that. When we think about growing the audience of the sport, that's where we need to start, bringing in people that wouldn't consider watching any of the Olympic disciplines. And why would they not consider watching it? Maybe it doesn't feel relatable to them. And these are all things that the IOC, the Olympic Committee, look at if we want to keep equestrian sport in the Olympics. We've got a lot of work to do. It needs to be relevant for the next generation and probably safer than it is now in the eventing side of things anyway. Those cross-country courses cost a lot of time and money to build, so I think some countries would be really keen to get eventing out of the Olympic sports. So let's show the world why it should stay and help it represent the world we live in. I'm working with riders that could bring up flags we've never seen before in the sport. Nigeria and Zimbabwe, more Jamaican riders over here. We could create a team if we work really hard and get to the level required. So I can't wait to see what happens next.
I think that's such an incredible, I'm so glad you said that. And I mean, I know that that's at the root of what you do, but it's so wonderful to hear it enunciated so clearly and so powerfully because, big players in the eventing world here are very much aware that no matter what we do with current memberships and elevating education and ethics, at the end of the day, it's still a very insular community. And things don't last that don't involve enough passionate people. And that's where I think people like Lydia and myself can really help the equestrian community by drawing in new people in ways that are culturally relevant and grow the equestrian community into a richer and deeper community that it is. And that doesn't mean being a naysayer against tradition. It means growth and benefiting all. And I think it's just hard for some people to know how to go about that. Not that they don't want it necessarily, but that they just really don't know how to gain followers.
Now, Lydia, do you have students or yourself competing in traditional shows currently?
Yeah, they're all starting to get going now. Training shows before the season starts in March for me. Some of the members have been out already this year. I'm trying to think. We've had lots of dressage success and qualifications. It hasn't really slowed down that much over Christmas.
So let's say you're taking students to a show. Um, how is it that you talk about how to handle some of the things they're going to see, whether it's poor behavior amongst people, things that are happening to horses? How do you go about that conversation?
I think focusing on yourself, your own warm-up and your own performance is the key to success. Creating a bubble of focus is an important part of having the confidence to execute the training that you've been doing at home without being distracted. So probably trying not to watch others is a big tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least while you're
You know,
there. Maybe we'll talk about it when we get back home, but leave it alone while you're there.
yeah, in the warm up, if you see people doing different things, there might be a 5-star rider that's put a big wide oxer up and they're just about to go in, and you think maybe that's their secret weapon. I'm gonna try and jump a big wide oxer before I go in, and then you go crash and your horse lose confidence. So just don't copy others. Stay in your bubble and do the system that your coach has laid out for you.
Another thing that Lydia does that's really interesting, Tamara, is organize groups of friends and colleagues to go and observe at big competitions together. They were just at the big London Winter Show, and I think that that's an incredible missed opportunity for bringing people to the sport. Like great big friendly field trips of people going to go and experience a thing together. And I am curious, Lydia, about how do you just gather people together and do a briefing before you attend, or how do you handle, I'm assuming you have some first time people coming in?
For sure. Yeah, the show partnerships have been a great way to increase accessibility for people that haven't had the chance to attend any shows. Even members that have wanted to go to the likes of the London one that you just mentioned that haven't been able to afford to go until we had this partnership and got a bunch of tickets. So it's really beneficial to be partnering with venues. I spread the word via direct messages, really, because I get an awful lot of inquiries to the Cool Riding's Instagram and website. When I've got upcoming events, I can easily reply with a link to say, "Oh, come and meet us and get involved and see if you want to be a member." So I take things slowly with these new membership inquiries, make sure that ethos and energy aligns with our current membership base. I've made a couple of mistakes, hands up, over the past 6 years where I have welcomed the wrong kind of person into the crew. Won't be doing that again. These events allow me to show what we're all about and also show what the sport's all about. We've been to Cornbury Horse Trials was the most recent eventing competition that I took around 50 guests to. We actually had a celebrity the previous year who's a really well-known rapper in the UK. Love to have more celebrities joining us because then you get access to their audience, not for selfish cool riding's reasons, more for the sport is making it cool. I know when I was at school, I got terrorized for riding ponies. People would try and get under my skin by saying, "You go to Pony Club," in a silly voice. Yeah, I do go to Pony Club. I think when it comes to these influencers, they can play a really important part in the sport. I was quite shocked to see that Kendall Jenner is show jumping under a fake name.
I know, right? Could you believe
Yeah,
that?
you could do a lot for the sport. It's a shame.
Yeah, exactly.
I had seen something about her jumping. I did not see that it was a fake name, though. Obviously, I did not click and read the thing. But I totally get why. It's interesting the things you're talking about, Lydia. They remind me of a trip I took to Thermal or Desert International Horse Park. And on one hand, it's so funny because they do such a good job of making this like really fun, lovely VIP watching experience that you don't have at shows in Arizona, at a lot of shows you don't have. And it's really fun. And I think a great way to show the sport to people. If they don't know anything about horses and they come to a regular old horse show, it's not quite as inviting and fun and comfy as it was in this other situation. But at the same time, it's like as we all know, there's the other side to that VIP type. And it's not always what I think horses need. So it's like, it's such a funny thing because as a horse person, like I loved it. I just loved it. I could sit in a comfortable seat in the shade, get anything I need. So great, so fun. But also, is that the side, how do we combine all these things?
I think bringing more entertainment and McKrell at Giddy up has brought over the Memphis Hype Man and Nadia Yates. It's great to see people from all different backgrounds coming to enjoy the sport and get involved, showing their skills. So in the racing world here, we do have DJ sets and artists performing after the races. Why not eventing? Let's get some music going and some jerk chicken, food from all over the world. Let's appeal to more people. When I took the Cool Ridings members to the 3-day event, we had our own Cool Ridings tent, so we brought the vibes and didn't have to worry about anyone glaring at us. The first year that we aligned with the show, unfortunately, they put us in the owner's tent, and there were a lot of owners looking over at us and our, it was an eyesore. It was 3-4 tables full of Black people, and they were quite puzzled. They really were trying to work out why we were in the owner's tent and how did we get here. And it was creating an uncomfortable environment. So we need to be careful about that.
Sure. And that's where I think there absolutely has to be diversity in decision-making bodies, in organizing bodies, because oftentimes the best intentions don't turn out the best results. And we all have huge blind spots that we don't even know we have.
For sure.
But where I think my personal struggle has been, because I didn't grow up in a horse family or even in the countryside, I grew up in a very urban environment, appreciating and identifying with urban landscapes and entertainment scapes. And part of why the horse world did not feel accessible to me was because it felt very staid and very rigid and unfun, But then I realized too that, when I bring the brand of fun that I like to the horse world, it can be just as jolting or jarring to them as their world was to me. And I'm just like, why do you not love everything that I love? I cannot understand this.
And if anyone doesn't get this piece of the conversation, you just head on over to McKrell's Instagram for a second and you'll figure it right out.
Exactly. But you know what it did make me realize, and Lydia, this is where I think you and I have an advantage that we don't even think of as an advantage, is we grew up knowing two worlds simultaneously. And not everybody has had that advantage. So there's other advantages that other people had that we didn't have, right? Let's say with resources or legacy or what have you. Like, diversity of experience is, to me, one of the most important things in life. This is why everyone that you hear anywhere talk about what makes a better leader, what makes a better whatever, it's travel, it's experience, it's being forced to realize the perspective of other people because you're in a place where you don't belong, right? Many, many people that are engaged in the equestrian ecosystem and love it dearly have not been forced to have those experiences. And so there's a much narrower bandwidth for accepting things and like really letting their own neurology adjust to new things.
For sure.
Another thing that I've become very much aware of here just recently, I knew it to a very surface level degree. There is an incredible, deep level of trauma, especially in women in the horse world, that have found it to be their solace and their safe place. And it's across the board, any number of things that are traumatizing, where horses become the safe activity, the safe space, even if it's in itself a toxic culture from whatever number of reasons, it's still safety and significance. And so I'm trying to teach myself to be more sensitive to others. I don't defend it, but I try to be more sensitive to it in the way that I interact so that I am quicker in helping them realize that diversity is the key. But they didn't have access to diversity in the same way that we did. And it's just not super easy from either side, but it has to be done. It has to be done.
I was thinking earlier about all the problems that equestrian faces or ways that we need to grow, and just hypothetically saying diversity is the answer. And every single time I could find a way to prove that diversity is the answer to every issue in the equestrian world. Lack of volunteers, diversify.
Yes.
Lack of anything, lack of sponsorship, diversify. Oh, our membership base is decreasing, could diversify. Quite simple.
And I mean, the terrible thing that has happened in recent decades is that diversity has come to be yet again a terrible word. It's like if you could, you could make it into a four-letter word, that's how people would feel about it. And that's like one of the biggest crimes of our generation, I think, is to allow that to happen. That, diversity means strength. It's like diversifying your business portfolio. Like, who doesn't want to do that? You do not want to have all your eggs in one basket. And that's exactly why equestrian sport is in this social license to operate issue. And I say all the time when people talk about SLO, they're only thinking about it from the framework usually of how we treat horses. And we need to be thinking about how we treat humans in this
Mm,
sport as well. Because at the end of the day, it's a human created sport. And if we don't engage and treat each other with respect and dignity and look to each other's perspectives, how the hell are we going to encourage people to treat horses well?
for sure.
Yeah, you definitely can't. You can't, Sometimes you start to, I shouldn't say you, me. I'll start talking to someone and you very quickly realize, like, this is not a person that we can even really have. We can't really even have the conversation about horses that I would want to have. We can just say we love horses. That's great. But it comes back to that life philosophy. Like sometimes you meet other horse people, maybe in a different horse bubble, but still a horse person. And you feel like, oh, our bubbles could easily mesh. And then you meet another one and you're like, these bubbles ain't
Yeah, oil
meshing.
and
We don't
water.
even have a language to get them connected, which actually brings me to another question that I typed earlier when Lydia was chatting. Lydia was talking about Bridge Up, Giddy Up, and she said that you do things correctly. And this is something I mentioned in a lot of episodes, and that is how hard it is to use words, which is what makes all of this stuff hard to do. Hard, because the words mean different things. So what does correctly mean? And how do we define that in a way that is functional and useful for people and for horses, but that isn't just like fluff, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Totally.
I think horse first is two words that's good to start with, and the fact that riders weren't being rushed to progress. The foundations were so strong. The correct position, if I may use that word again, it was so impressive to see. I know that if the riders were in the UK, they might have been rushed to jump 70, 80 centimetres because they were riding so beautifully. But with McKrell, strong foundations is absolutely key. And I couldn't agree more. That's how we create real horsemen, women.
And it's certainly, just for the record, not to criticize you for using the word. It's more just to like bring light to, I think, the hardest part about getting all of us horse people on the same page is how do we speak and write down our guidelines? How do we create our education? How do we create our rules? All this stuff. How do we do that with words when correctly can be thrown around by anybody? It does all the time. You go on Facebook and here's somebody who absolutely would 100% believe they are doing everything correctly, So
I love that you said that, and I'm so glad that you brought that to my awareness because I know I'm guilty of it. And it's interesting because a Plaidcast live that was just recorded on Saturday will be coming out soon, and I was so impressed with Christian, my husband's way of answering this one particular question, which was exactly to your point. Piper Clem, the uh, publisher of the Plaidcast, was the host and was leading this conversation and was explaining a scenario in which she owned a horse that was not responding in a way that made sense to her and her trainer's training regimen. Okay. It was like, why does this aid that we ask get such a different reaction from this horse than when we do it the same way with another one of the horses in our program? And the way that Christian answered that question was not around correctness of aids or correctness of the training scale or anything like that. It was more about understanding history with horses, which is a very long span of time, right? When we talk about correctness, I think we have this notion of this moment right here, who's doing it the best in this moment. under all the, like Tamara, all of these layers and levels of what horse human communication is, and biases that we have and all these things. But we just have to remember that horses have their own life with their own experiences in it. And oftentimes, inexperienced riders will feel a reaction from a horse that you would think is simply to do with what they've asked, whether they've asked correctly or incorrectly. But what it often has to do with is that horse's history and previous experiences and anticipation and fear and, all of these things. So if you don't know the entirety of the horse human history of training and all the different paths that have come off, and like the brutal things, that there were classical books written about brutal techniques. They didn't stand the test of time because they don't work. So nobody does that anymore. When you don't understand, when humans aren't required to learn, at least on a surface level, about this trajectory of horse training over many, 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 many centuries, starting in 436 BC with Xenophon and the art of horsemanship, it's impossible to even imagine what's correct, right? It's very deep, and it's very deeply rooted in history and in lots of paths that have not worked or haven't stood the test of time. And there's still new things that we're learning and adding to it to make us better at it. But when humans want to do horses as a sport and don't want to have horses as an education or a way to see history, can they ever do it correctly? I don't know that they can, unless they have just a very unusual talent and empathy, for responding to what the horse is telling them in that moment. I think it's almost impossible to even imagine what's correct if you don't know history.
Yeah. I think that, all of this stuff is what has historically made me be anti-regulation, anti-certification,
Yeah.
anti-licensure. You know what I mean? This conversation right here is exactly why. And yet I also feel like it's so necessary in some ways. So we have to figure it out. I think even talking about something being correct or not correct is kind of what keeps the different disciplines divided. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And yet at the same time, there's some things that we need to not allow. It's like, but how do we actually write that down? I don't freaking know. because of this conversation right here.
Exactly.
I had a cross-country lesson yesterday, and the coaching question has ridden at 5-star eventing since moved to show jumping, and has changed the way he coaches since that move to show jumping, because he's seen things that he prefers. And it's different disciplines, different parts of the world. Correct means different things, isn't it? Yeah, thanks for highlighting that.
It's
it ain't
tough.
easy.
Yeah, but what I don't like is organisations shying away from trying to distribute knowledge. The British Horse Society comes to mind. I'm really disappointed that they are too, I'll say the word worried, to enter the Caribbean. BHS qualifications are highly regarded around the world, so it's really holding back the passionate horse people that want to travel and work with BHS qualifications. I think they see the way that Caribbean yards can be a bit rough and ready, riding in trainers, maybe that kind of scene would worry BHS, but that's not a reason to avoid going in and educating is one word for it, but working together to make things better for the horses and distribute opportunities. They were very keen to go into Asia, and I feel like that has helped the progress of the Asian market, which is the fastest growing in the world right now. Initially, Alex Hoytian riding in the Olympics aged 18, I think that was the catalyst for the growth of the Asian market. And it's incredible to see it continue. He's built a team around him. The dressage team is very strong as well. I'd love to see Caribbean nations rise in the way that China has, and Hong Kong too. Really impressive. They've all got bases over here in England where they train in unison under the same coach. They might be at different levels, but they all celebrate one another, and that's the way it should be. That's the way Cool Riding's base will be when I can find the funding.
Exactly. I think it's just more evidence that the siloed equestrian community has to kind of get over ourselves, myself included. I'm not saying others, I'm saying me too. Our window of opportunity for making these big changes before horse sport is canceled on the Olympic level is not, it's maybe 2 more Olympic cycles. And that means that we have to work fast, and we have to decide that no matter how hard it is, or if we feel like there's going to be little micro setbacks in the macro evolution, that we have to sit together in rooms and listen to where everyone's strong suits are and know where our own weak suits are, and be willing to collaborate together. I mean, that I didn't know that about BHS, but I find it horrifying, because that is exactly what you're supposed to do, is to reach out a hand and help those with less experience than yourself. And so that and I know it from other conversations and other settings as well, is the risk worth it? Like, for example, arena eventing, right? We already have so many bad pictures in the outdoor eventing. Can we stand it to have bad pictures from course designers that aren't able to do this more challenging design project in a different space? Well, okay, maybe, but you also need to bring people into the sport in places where they don't have big outdoor eventing courses. This has to be some kind of a step in the door to make these bigger things possible. So it's scary for everybody. But we don't have enough time to be scared and not act. We have to act while we're scared.
Right. Well, we have come to the most important question of the day. And now that I think about it, McKrell, I don't know if you've ever been able to answer this either. In all the episodes, I don't think, because we're always so specific on what we're going to talk about. Maybe we have to do them for both of you. So, if your fairy godmother granted you 3 wishes, sometimes I say horse related wishes, sometimes I don't. You just do whatever you want. Your fairy godmother granted you 3 wishes. What would you wish for? Who's going first, McKrell or Lydia?
Lydia.
Okay. Well, the base for Cool Ridings came straight to mind. Lots of land and facilities, please.
So I think we all agree there. Yes, I would like big place, indoor, all the things. Okay, so you got 2 more wishes.
Okay. That was just one, Lydia.
That was
You get
just
2 more
one. Yeah,
wishes.
you need 2 more. We can go back and forth if you need a little time. We can hear McKrell's first one if we want.
I'm happy to share another one.
It can be selfish. It doesn't have to be a gift to humanity. It can be for you if you want.
I'm feeling like I'm in quite a good place right now. All the struggles that I had at the end of last year have got better. So
That's a
that's a nice
great thing,
position to
huh?
be in. I'll give one to humanity. Yeah. My humanity one would probably be that tax is abolished.
There you go.
There you go. And now that you're self-employed, it can be healthcare for all, right?
I'm in England. Yeah.
Right.
NHS
I
for the win.
forgot for a second. Sorry. I forgot.
It won't last
My
much longer anyway.
self-employed self over here is forgetting not everyone is in this situation. Okay, well, McKrell, I guess
And
Lydia, you have one more, and then McKrell.
No, Lydia still has a third. I'm
Yeah.
waiting to hear about the Olympic gold medal hanging around her neck. I'm just sitting here waiting.
I was going to say, like, change the design of horses' legs to be more sturdy.
No, this is a first. Nobody has
Like,
ever said they're going to redesign horses. That is a first. And a smart
yeah,
idea.
indestructible horse. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love it.
Okay, McKrell.
All right, let me think here. It is. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go from micro to macro. I would like to have a horse to jump the 160. And I don't know if I necessarily want to have one that I would, try to campaign to a high level, but I would at least like to have a 160 horse to be able to demonstrate that, with the right horse, that it can be an enjoyable practice towards pushing yourself to do hard things. In the mid-range there, I would like to see that we could develop an equestrian facility in the city. I would very much like to see what horses can do for a community when they are in that community, and in a way that's really engaging more people. And finally, I would like to see that all the different factions of the horse world can come together and sit in rooms, probably with lots of alcohol, would be my guess, that's necessary, and work on find out where everybody's strong points are and figure out how we can actively find the next things that we need to do together.
Beautiful. Love it.
I can't wait
How
to
about
see
you, Tamara?
Oh,
What are your 3
shucks.
wishes, Tamara?
For someone who has asked that so many times, you would think I would have had a really good pre-planned answer, but I don't. One immediately
Nope.
comes to mind, which is very easy for me. And that is horse facilities at my house, because I have a very lovely horse. I love my horse's living situation, but I don't have a real arena, and I do live where it snows, and I would love an indoor arena. So that's going to be really high on the list. An indoor arena with all the things, so it's not dusty and whatever. You know how much that costs too. So it's
We
a
know.
big wish. It might take all 3 wishes, and right now it would feel worth it to me. So that is definitely first wish on my mind. Okay, so wish number 2 is it's going to be another selfish one, but it would still help
Go for
the
it.
world, because that would be to get another Barnaby. Barnaby was this horse I had that had a issue, and he had to be put down when he was 6. Whole story thing. I would
Oh,
love to have another chance to work with him, even if he couldn't be like better, or like, make that thing go away. Like, I think I used to say, oh, I want to have like a chance to have Barnaby that wasn't broken, which, yes, would be lovely, but even to have the exact same one now would be so enlightening, given all the things I know now after having been through it. To start over from the beginning would be amazing, even if he wasn't perfect. But let's see. And number 3 would be some kind of mind communication device, because you know that I am always talking about this struggle with words. So I need to find a way, when you're with those people where like your bubbles feel like they're never going to mesh and you don't know how you're ever going to get on the same page. Something, I don't know, some kind of mind magic where we can all get on the same vibe. I don't know what it is, but that's my wish. We're all one happy place. Our horses will be good after that. Clear
yeah.
rounds will just be pouring in at that point. I'm sure of it. Because when we can communicate with those hard people, we can communicate with the horses. You know what I mean? Like, they're easy compared to those challenging situations.
Oh,
So
so
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
This has been so fun, ladies. Thank you for spending the time.
If your listeners want to see more from Cool Ridings and our members, we're on Instagram, and our website is coolridings.com. It's an exciting year, and it'd be great to celebrate all the success with some more of your listeners. So come and see the action. I think we could pick up and have another chat in a few months' time. Maybe when I've come back from McKrell, let's have another chat.
Yes, McKrell, tell us where people can find you in case they haven't already heard
Sure.
on another episode.
Sure. You can find out all about what the US Equestrian Society is doing on our Instagram page at US Equestrian Society, as well as the trainings that we're doing here every day at Bridge Up Giddy Up. And our USES website is us-es.org.
Well, everybody go check out McKrell and what she's doing, and the events you're putting on are amazing. And Bridge Up Giddy Up they've got their own stuff going on as far as social media, but look them up too. Amazing, amazing stuff. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. Fun as always. Lydia, it was lovely to get to know you a bit more. And we will have to do it again soon. Like you said, after your next visit, we will have to have another.
That would be great. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Bye, ladies.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to click follow or subscribe, rate the show, and share with a friend. Visit tamaraleebarrett.com for more info on coaching, consulting, and links to our socials. Until next time, happy horsing.